Welcome to a very special episode of the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live with your hosts Shelley Johnson and Tom Kelly. We're speaking with drag racing royalty and a true champion, Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, the first lady of drag racing. She made worldwide headlines, outpacing her male counterparts on the drag strip for decades. We're going to take you back in time for just a moment to hear just one of her many victories.
Hi, I'm Paul Page. You know, drag racing began here in Southern California, so it's appropriate. The sports world is here for the NHRA World Drag Race Finals. There are 4 names tied for the World Championship. It will be decided here today. Jeb Allen, Gary Beck, Marvin Graham, and Shirley Muldowney.
This is the tightest contest we've ever had for a Top Fuel World Championship in the history of drag racing, really.
Now here is Jeb Allen. Shirley Muldowney says she is her toughest competitor. He is on the line. He has to run better than a 6:04. Allen leaves the line clean.
The other car smoking the tires, he will not qualify.
Allen across the line, 6.056. It's not fast enough. And already Jeb Allen is out of the show. So Shirley Muldowney here in the first round of Top Fuel has a chance to eliminate one of her competitors for the world title.
Marvin Graham says he'll out-muscle Shirley. Shirley says, no, he won't, I'll out-drive him.
Both cars on the line now. Shirley in the near lane, Marvin Graham in the far lane. Both cars away cleanly, some smoke off of Graham's tires. Now Shirley coming on strong, pulls Graham to the line, and Shirley Muldowney has beat Marvin Graham in round number 1.
And only by 2/100ths of a second. 6.07 for Shirley, 2:37. 6.09, 2:34 for Marvin Graham.
Gary Beck, on the other hand, is still in this World Championship. He has to keep pace with Shirley Muldowney. He has more runs in the 5-second bracket than any other Top Fuel driver. So Dennis Baca pushed to the side. Gary Beck will win here in this round. And he and Shirley Muldowney will now fight it out for the World Championship. Here the quarterfinal round. Muldowney brings her machine to the line to face Connie Kalita, her former chief mechanic. Kalita in the near lane, a yellow light and then a green. And they're away. Kalita lights the tires. And Muldowney now simply driving away from Kalita. She's now one step closer to a World Championship. Muldowney and her crew will go back and prepare their machine to do battle with Gary Cornwall. Both cars are now staged. Muldowney on the far side is prepared. The World Championship is up to Muldowney. Her concentration and her driving. She pulls away. Muldowney is driving away from Cornwall as Cornwall smoked the tires on the line, and Shirley Muldowney is the World Champion. The crowd loves it. Gary Beck watches as his hope for a World Championship go to Shirley Muldowney.
The season-long pressure of winning the world title is off her shoulders now.
Frank Bradley will be on the near side. Shirley Muldowney, the world champion, on the far side. Her crew makes last-minute preparations. They check her rear tires to make sure they're clean. Now they're bringing the cars up the stage. Something might be wrong with Muldowney. No, they say, all right, bring them up, stage them, and they're off. Muldowney pulls away right off the line. And just as easy as that, Muldowney runs on to victory.
With just an outside chance for success coming into this event, Shirley Muldowney has made this a day neither she nor 50,000 screaming fans will ever forget. She did it with a 5.95 elapsed time at 241 miles an hour, undisputably Wonder Woman of motor racing.
Shirley, it's such an honor to speak with you. You've been called the first lady of drag racing, and you've had quite the career. You've made your debut in 1958 on the Fonda Speedway, and you got your NHRA professional license in 1965, from what I read. You won the International Hot Rod Association Southern Nationals in 1971. You were the first woman to step up to Top Fuel in 1973, where you dominated. You won the Top Fuel Championship in 1977, 1980, and 1982, and became the first person to win 2 and 3 Top Fuel titles. You got your first NHRA World Championship in 1977. You won a total of 18 NHRA events. Your career spanned decades, and you were just amazing on the track. Plus, you've been a huge advocate for women in racing. I have been a huge fan of yours. I first saw you when I was a young'un at Martin Dragway in Michigan. I love racing and anything that goes vroom, vroom.
Well, we're past the vroom. Actually, they made a movie called Vroom. We've, surpassed that by many years. The sport has grown in leaps and bounds. It just amazes me, to see the interest in the young folks out there, the ones that the ones that have their face in a cell phone. That's worrisome. Where there are youngsters that went out and worked on their hot rod years ago. So we want to see them get back to that sort of recreation. And, the doors are wide open for young people to come into the sport. I'm not going to suggest the Top Fuel class. I could go back if I wanted, if I also had $4 million to set me up to be on the starting line. But unfortunately, it's today it's a rich man's sport. And a lot of the people out there are independently wealthy, and they do it as a tax write-off or a form of recreation. There's a lot to say for the sport and what it offers, but the price has gotten up there where it's almost unheard of.
That's really unfortunate.
It is. But there's a lot, the sport offers a great deal. It really does. And,
it's so cool.
I worry about the young people coming in. Will they be able to maintain and stay alive in the nitro ranks?
Sure.
So there's a lot of semi-pro and amateur classes that you can come in, and it's not a sport where you can bring your mom's car out on Sunday or Wednesday night and go drag racing. It isn't the way it is today.
Talking about your mom's car, I've got to tell on my sister. When she was a teenager, she dated a guy who would race his car at Martin Dragway, and I guess she took my mom's car on the time trials when she was a teenager. I guess it did pretty well.
Well, I'm sure it did, because Martin is a very fast racetrack. Mm-hmm. It's been taken, but we just lost the promoter, John Grivens, the original promoter. We just lost him last week. He was up there in age, but the track has long since been out of his management, and it's run by the Steve Earwood's daughter and husband, and has been for a number of years. And it's just a great facility. I won. That's where they had the Pop Hot Rod magazine event every year, and I won it twice. That's probably where you saw me. It was this wonderful place to race, and still is. In fact, it's been all revamped, and it's considered a super speedway now.
Yes, it is. Oh, it's totally cool, and it was really fun when.
Really, yes.
That's probably the first taste of racing I got was at Martin Dragway. So yeah. Very, very neat. So how did it all start with you, Shirley? Did you begin with a pedal car and have your dad put an engine on the back of it, or when you were a little kid?
Well, my dad didn't know what I was involved in. I was a street racer in the 50s.
Okay.
And I was out there with a gang of kids that liked hot rods, but anytime I could get a chance to drive a car, I would. I worked at a small car hop type drive-in restaurant. Worked in the kitchen. I didn't go around on roller skates like the other girls serving the food, but I enjoyed my time. I liked it there better than I liked school. I knew what I was doing when I was 15. Sure I did. And a guy named Jeff Muldowney would come in. He was after work. He was a postgraduate in high school, and he worked at a pretty large gas station nights, and he would come in there after work, and he would give me a ride home from work. And we wouldn't go straight home. We would go up and down State Street or the Albany Schenectady Road, and we would drag race. And that's how it all began. Jack taught me how to drive. A week later, with a New York State permit to drive, I was racing a brand new 56 Oldsmobile, 120 miles an hour side by side.
Ooh.
So yeah, those were the crazy days. I was lucky to survive it. I'm lucky to be here today with some of the antics that I was involved in. I just didn't know any better, and it was very serious business with us. Then we spent every extra dime we had and able to go out there, and then finally a racetrack opened up. It was a 8 mile paved strip that they used for the pit road on the circle cars on Saturday night. So we'd go in there on Wednesday, race the 8th mile, and absolutely risk our lives without knowing it. So those were the days in Fonda where I started. And I remember my first 200-mile-an-hour run, my first 250, and there are several racetracks on the circuit where I ran their first 300. Epping, New Hampshire, Milan, Michigan, Stanton, Michigan, the list goes on. But those are credits that you cherish and you stay with you, and they make a statement in your press releases. And, when people say, oh, the first race you won 3, actually, I did win 3. I won 4 championships because one was AHRA, which NHRA will not, they just don't promote other sanctioning bodies that don't exist now. But it was a trial back then. I'm so thankful that I lived those years when racing was great. Now we get 16 qualifiers on Sunday for the event. I remember standing at Indy in the staging lanes, looking downwind and counting 55 Top Fuel cars, wanting to be one of 16. And it just, it was rough back then. There was a lot of competition, but we learned a great deal by losing some drivers, parts failure, driver error, things happened back then. And we took a hold of it and made changes. And a lot of the changes were centered around safety.
Shirley, I can't wait to learn more about those changes and what you saw over the years and how it changed on the track. We have to go to break right now. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. We're talking with drag racing legend Shirley Muldowney. Stay tuned for more coming up. Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is building a positive image of trucking by telling the story of the hardworking drivers and industry professionals who support the industry. And you can be a part of it. Learn more about TMAF and how you can join and be a part of the industry movement working to build a strong image of trucking by visiting TMAF's website at truckingmovesamerica.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our latest channel, TikTok. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with drag racing legend Shirley Muldowney. Shirley, you've been nothing short of amazing. I would say you had more courage and more tenacity than most guys your age in high school. And when you think about it, I mean, Tom, did you ever take your car 120 miles an hour when you were in high school? Or
I did it someplace I shouldn't have.
Uh-huh. I actually drove my mom's car for a short time, up to 120. My parents never knew about it, but yeah. My sister and I actually inherited the lead foot from my dad, I think.
I did too, actually.
So did you get pushback at all, or did you have friends that were saying, come on, what are you thinking?
Well, that was, that's part of the early days. That's part of the story that's synonymous with, what I did. And it was good press, got a lot of attention. And my fight back also got a lot of attention. It was, it went with the territory. Unfortunately, back then, I was the first female and in the lower classes and the first one to go into the nitro ranks. Mm-hmm. And that nitro ranks separate the men from the boys. And it was just a costly thing. But I raced from week to week, month to month, year to year. I knew exactly what it was to count my pennies. And somehow, some way, Shelley, I managed to stay in nitro racing for 33 years before I basically folded. I just couldn't do it anymore. The cost was too outrageous. And
Sure.
My help, a lot of them were with me throughout the years, and we took new people on. It was more than racing your street car on weekends. It became a money pit.
Oh, sure. What is the average cost? I mean, when you were in the circuit, what were you looking at? Did you have to rebuild the dragsters after each race? How does this all work?
After each run, you'd look down through the the cylinder walls and see the ground. That's how far down that engine power plant would be in between rounds. Now we have an hour and 15 minutes to make a run, tow back, disassemble. But most of your owners today just change an engine. They have, as they refer to them as bullets, and they have 4 ready to go bullets with oil in the oil capacity, and the magnetos all set up. They just drop in another slug and go to the starting line. You know how expensive that is?
Oh, man.
Yeah, with just one clutch system is an easy $50,000.
Woo.
And for sure, a rear differential setup, a good 75,000. And it's crazy, but that's what it takes to run. Now, keep in mind, they run only 1,000 feet now. They don't run the famed quarter mile, 1320. So they're in the 3-second bracket and speeds well over 310 mile an hour.
Wow. What was the top speed when you were running?
I ran 327.66. I did it twice, and once at Vegas, and the second run was at Chicago. And that was the fastest during my years. And that was in my retirement year. It was with a 6-year-old car. I mean, these drivers today, they get new pipe, as we refer to chassis, new pipe twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm kicking their tush with a 6-year-old car. Oh, they just, here she comes, get out of the way. There's an old saying, well, get out of the way. I want the left lane.
Sure. There you go.
Oh, that's exactly. I mean, truer words were never spoken. That's what a driver is thinking, rather than how much they're gonna make if they win. Back in the early days. Oh, wow. We did a lot of match racing, independent racing, and your Martin, Michigan race was an independent. That was not a national event, but it was a well attended independent, and the word, whoever won it, the word was out on Monday. It was basically treated like a national event throughout the ranks.
So were you ever nervous, or did you just find it exhilarating to go that kind of speed? I mean, what is it like to be in a dragster?
Oh, golly. Well, try to answer it. Nervous. You're paying attention to the job you have. It's a kind of I'll explain it this way. You could have apprehension. You could have thoughts about maybe, well, I know the crank has got, 150 runs on it. Not today, but back then, is that crank going to last this entire event? You're thinking about things like that if you're an owner like I was.
Mm-hmm.
And once that car fires, when they turn that starter over and that thing comes alive, you don't think about anything other than the job at hand. And that was one positive thing that I possessed back then. I just, I dealt with anything adversity. I dealt with it as it came to me. And, we stayed away from problems. We didn't run crazy combination being size of the engine, gear ratio, tire pressure, and on and on and on. That's what a combination is.
Mm-hmm.
And a crew chief can have a good combination that works for him, but as you go along, it may work in Houston. You might go to Martin, Michigan, and not be able to get anything out of the car in terms of longevity or something that's consistent. So it's the nitro cars, they change like the wind with the altitude, humidity, all the things that enter into a so-called combination.
So it's really a science.
Absolutely. Yeah. You just said it. Mm-hmm. Very accurate. It's a science. And these crew chiefs that demand these big prices and fees nowadays, they're playing a little game, and they are they're really out of their minds to think that they deserve $250,000 a year. At least I'm an owner, so I know what goes into that. You have to now, instead of 3 guys, crew members that I had, there's 10
Wow.
required. You got to have 10. They all need a room. They all need health insurance. They all need Blue Cross Blue Shield, and so on and so on. And everybody has their needs out there, and it all falls on in my lap. When I
Sure.
had a team, I had to maintain and make sure that I provided all that it took to campaign a car. So it's like anything else, and anything gets old after a while. And the cost of it, with no wins under your belt, can get very old and very expensive and very tiring.
It really would. Well, and you depend on your sponsors.
But there was something wrong with sponsoring the girl back then. I suffered from lack of sponsorship my entire career. I did
Wow.
have Pioneer Electronics for 3 years. They were wonderful to me. The CEO was a woman, big, tall, 6-foot blonde, and she answered to all these little 5-foot tall Japanese guys that that ran Pioneer. And she was quite the businesswoman, and we became friends, and we are still friends today. Talk at least once a week. She attends the Pomona race when I go out there, stands on the starting line with me. And, we had the same birthday, same age. She's been my friend and supporter for all these years, stayed right with me throughout, thick and thin. When
That's
I got on
wonderful.
my head in '84, the only time in my entire 50 years driving, I got on my head one time. It was parts failure, and I got hurt. And I got hurt because there was no guardrail where I went off.
Yeah.
The guardrail ended in the traps. There was no guardrail. Well, we really needed it, So NHRA grew up and realized they didn't have all the answers, and the sport absolutely advanced and is much, much safer today because of that one accident I had.
And you kept going. You didn't let it get you down. You,
Well,
you, you
that's all
just
I
got back
knew.
behind the wheel.
Yeah, I sure did. It was all that I knew, and I knew well. And I was out of a job, so I saw the chance. Someone did step up and offer me a 4-year deal. It wasn't Mega Millions. It was for 4 years, but we still had to. I still had to watch my money, and winning did help out a great deal. Personal appearances, and I coupled it all in one big lump sum. And at the end of the year, we had enough to come back and start the year out.
Bravo.
So yeah, oh yeah, it was not a cakewalk for me.
No.
And I'm not complaining. I'm thrilled to death that I was there during those years. And I ran Houston a number of times. Well-run racetrack. In fact, the racetrack is their event that's coming up is the very last event that will be held at the Houston track, which is very sad.
It is.
Oh.
Very sad. I hate every minute of that.
Shirley, let me ask you this. We just had the Daytona 500 here recently. No female drivers this year in the Daytona 500. Why is that? Are we lacking talent? Are we lacking sponsorship? What is happening that, when Danica was at her height and everything, it looked like we were going to, turn the corner, so to speak, no pun intended. And now it looks like we've gone backwards again. Well, why is that?
Well, there's a couple reasons for that. Danica was I'm not going negative or anything. I'm just going to tell you the way the mop flops. Danica was a good publicity. She was a good marketing tool. She sold a lot of T-shirts in the souvenir trailer. She got a lot of exposure. She had excellent equipment, and she didn't hit her backside with both hands. Never won a race
Right.
in NASCAR. She did win one in IndyCar over in Japan, and the reason she won that race, it was not sheer ability. It was she passed the leader because he let her leave, and he thought she was a lap down, and she wasn't. So he backed off and let her pass him, and she won the event. But there's more than a few one race wonders out there. One happened to be a female that didn't add anything but publicity and the lack of sponsorship. And she brought in the last year to save herself. She brought in some bakery concern. You got to sell a lot of cakes and cupcakes. Well, you do to pay that kind of bill. So she's gone, and I'm not surprised at all. So I think what's she doing? She's doing yoga classes or something. What do you want to really be? So I stayed in it because I was pretty decent at it. I could drive the race car, and under a lot of different conditions, I could drive the little dark, narrow, short racetracks and come away with guaranteed money because I put on the show that the fans paid to see.
And that you did. It was always exciting to see you race. We have to go to break here, but we'll be back. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. Be sure to stick around. We've got more with the First Lady of Drag Racing, Shirley Muldowney. Great leaders challenge their people not to stop at the first right answer. Tighten the Lug Nuts is the book that will help you move past that first right answer to be more effective, more productive, and more successful. This book serves as a blueprint that can be easily applied by leaders, entrepreneurs, truckers, owner-operators, all of us in our everyday lives. This is one of the best leadership books you can read to help you accelerate towards your personal and professional goals. Plus, a portion of the proceeds will be donated to truckerschristmasgroup.org. Visit TightenTheLugNuts.com to order your copy today. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with drag racing legend Shirley Muldowney. Shirley, you were absolutely amazing on the track. You went head-to-head with the best of the drivers. Oh, my goodness. You had quite the competition with Don Garlitz, too.
Oh, yes, you're right. Oh, my goodness, yes. Don was, he lives up to his name, Big Daddy. Mm-hmm. That's Big Daddy Don Garlitz. He's the granddaddy of it all. He's the one that was responsible for a good number of changes in the sport. But, when you're running Big Daddy, better have your act together. And I ran him a lot, and I beat him my share, more than he beat me. And in the early days, he hated my guts.
Yeah, I read somewhere he had a dartboard with your face on it every time you beat him at the track.
Yeah, absolutely. And a scoreboard on the door of his trailer. So when he's working, the door is open, of course, and this scoreboard, number lines with lines drawn through it, and 4 and a slash, and which is 5. And I was ahead of him. He was man enough to advertise it, and he was one of the 3 that signed for my upgrade. Now, everybody's thinks my career was exactly the way it was portrayed in Heart Like a Wheel, the Hollywood film. But it wasn't, only because they couldn't have 2 licensing programs in the movie. And it was only an hour and 59 minutes, so they scaled things down. So Don Garlitz did, in fact, sign for my upgrade. I had already run 220 mile an hour in a funny car. Mm-hmm. Same power plant, same everything, except it carries a body. It's a shorter wheelbase. There's a lot of things that are different between a funny car and a top fuel car. Dragster versus funny car. It's supposed to look like a car, a Detroit-based model, but funny cars don't look like a Ford, a Chevrolet, or a Dodge.
Right.
They look like something from outer space.
They're cool.
It's very cool, very entertaining, very everything, and deserve to be right up there with top fuel. So Garlitz was, he was the enemy back then. We have become very good friends. And he just turned 90 years old.
Wow.
And let me tell you, he's still pretty sharp. He's still pretty darn sharp. So I respect him a great deal. And I never lost respect for Garlitz. But I got very upset at him a lot of times. He run his mouth, and there's no secrets in drag racing, and it would filter back to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would get even. On the starting line is where I got even.
So did that galvanize your determination?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
You were kind of like, eat my dust, right?
Yeah, in so many words.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it just, the gossip line started Sunday night, and by Monday morning, it was in full force. Everybody knew who won throughout the weekend at what particular racetrack that was, running fuel cars. That's still the way it is today. There are no secrets out there, and it's a very tight knit group. We have our snobs, and we have our drivers that think they're the greatest thing since funnels, and they are not. But I can stand on the starting line, and I can tell you, I can look and observe, and I do that occasionally. I go up to the line to see certain people run. I like to watch Erica Enders. She's your Texas girl.
Mhm.
I like Matt Hagan. He's the cattle farmer from Virginia. I mean, sheer, utter talent in every sense. And Top Fuel, I root for a couple who will remain unnamed. I don't get into it. I'm careful to keep a low profile up there. And but sometimes I walk away really mad when someone I don't care for gets the win light. But that's part of the sport.
Sure. You really broke down a ton of barriers for women and you gained the respect of the drivers who were primarily men. That's huge. I mean, you had a lot of obstacles and you just said, the heck with it. I'm going for it.
I did.
Hmm.
Uh, in every sense of the word, I had to, because I wasn't going to let them see me fail. And the racers today and many of the old pros are still out there in other capacities, not so much driving, but wrenching and promoting and trying to sell the sport in whatever way they can be a part of it today. But they treat me like gold. These people are so good to me, and they just accept now what I did back then, and they make sure that I'm aware of it by acknowledging me or offer, hey Shirley, let me get your suitcase out. I drive up to the hotel and they're all outside, checking in, checking out, or whatever. But they are wonderful to me.
You're racetrack royalty. Think about it. I mean, you really, really are.
I would have never guessed ever back then that I would be on good terms with the NHRA like I am today. I'm so proud to be a member of the National Hot Rod Association. I'm extremely proud of that.
Well, you were a big influence in my life, even though I didn't decide to go into racing. But I'm looking at you going, women can do anything they want to. This is cool.
They sure can.
Yep.
They sure can. Yep. There's no doubt about that.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show. We're talking with racing legend Shirley Muldowney. So how did you get the nickname Cha-Cha? And did that irritate you? Whose idea was that whole thing?
Well, I heard there was a thing going around how I hated it. That's not true.
Okay.
I mean, it's been there for 50 years. And back in the 50s, I had a bright red, brand new 58 Chevrolet convertible, red with a white top, white rolled and pleated upholstery, lowered all the way around so this thing waddled down the road. It's very cool, but the worst ride you ever had in a car. It had teardrop spotlights up front. It had half moon headlights. It was a standard shift, big. God, I don't know what the cubic inch was. Your fans could probably, and listeners could probably correct me very easily, because these fans really have their act together as far as, what it took back then. But my memory's not that great. It may have been a 358, maybe. I'm sure I'm going to get corrected now, but that's okay. But it was just a jewel of a car, and we took it to Sanford, Maine, from upstate New York, where I lived, to drag race it on, the car I drove to work. I'm going to race it in Maine this weekend. And there was some track official that was, they used to put the car numbers on the windshields or the side windows with white shoe polish. That's the way they did it in the old days. Now we have a permanent number. Everybody has it. It's painted on the cars. But they did that with the shoe polish. And looking at this car coming through the line, the guy said, "I love this car, da 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 da," and he wrote "Cha-Cha" in oh so small letters with a hyphen, and he wrote it on the side of the window, driver window, passenger window, and we liked it. And Tommy Ivo, the great drag racer in his own right, he told me, "Shirley, don't lose that name and paint it pink."
That's
And
great.
I took his advice, and Cha-Cha has dogged me for 50 years. I love it.
You stood out, and you weren't afraid to say, "Hey, I'm here. I have arrived, and you better get out of
Yeah.
my way."
Well, I ran Dallas after I left NHRA for a number of years, because I didn't have a sponsorship, and that wasn't why I wasn't racing with them. I mean, that was why I wasn't racing with them. I didn't have any sponsor money. I couldn't hold the fort down. So I went match racing. I went and did match racing, being independents. And I did all the independents, everywhere from, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to Tokyo, Japan. And I made more money in those years, from 91 until 2003. But I ran a few NHRA national events, and I ran the one at the Texas Motorplex in 97. We didn't qualify. We missed it by 2/100ths of a second. But every time my car would turn the apron and come up, back of staging, and you could see the pink car, the stands would stand up.
Oh, yeah.
The only car that got a standing ovation throughout the whole weekend, and they printed that in USA Today. I loved it. I thought I had to run around and get 3 more copies of the paper. I thought that was quite a compliment. Yes. That's where, my career kind of had a little bit of a stall, only because I wasn't on TV. They thought I had retired, basically.
Yeah, and the media, as we know, is not always the best at doing the coverage. They should,
Right. Yes,
Mhm.
that's true. But I would get a lot of 6 o'clock news because of the local
Yeah.
tracks that would, have the results would come on, or I would do pre-race publicity, do, radio interviews like I'm doing right now, and television interviews. But that went along with the territory. That's what kept me alive. And I tell all the racers today, let me tell you something, I'll give you a word of advice. Don't back off if you've got an interview scheduled, or you've got a personal appearance scheduled for this, that, and whatever. Do it, because these media people are the ones that vote for Hall of Fame, for All-Star, for all the things that you're going to want to have when the driving days are over.
Yeah.
So if you want your place in the sport, do your homework and take care of the media. That it just goes without saying. That's what I did, and I have a wonderful rapport with the media. I give them an interview. I don't lie. I don't butter it up. There's a lot of things I don't do in an interview, and it served me well.
You're a savvy business lady.
Yeah, well, if I was so savvy, I'd still be out there. So, it's just, it's being in the right place at the right time. The people I have a great, great friend in Houston who basically, kept me alive here when I moved out of Michigan and came down to North Carolina. That's where I base out of now. But the founder of my charity, Shirley's Kids, is owned by a man named Stan Holt. And Stan Holt owns all your Lupe Tortilla Mexican restaurants in Houston.
Okay.
And what a wonderful, wonderful man he is. He's a drag racer in his own right. He drives a stock type car, but very highly modified. And his wife, also Sheila Holt, also has a car, and they race together, and they're serious racers. So I go to Stan and go, hey, Stan, let me set it up and, we'll put you in a car, when they warm one, a Top Fuel car. And he shakes his head side to side. Well, why, Stan? I don't want to go any faster. The minute he said that and how he said it, he had all the respect I have in the world for a competitor. He just said, I don't want to go any faster. See, there's a lot of them out there that wouldn't admit that.
Sure.
But he did. So he's a quality guy. He does a great deal for me. He holds the foundation at a high level in his life, and he's done wonderful things with it to help children, challenged kids. They come to us word of mouth. If it could have a challenge at home, problem, health issues, it just depends. But this child, when we do bring them to an event and give them, first class accommodations and be up on the starting line with the racers and be up in the do driver intro, and that's a big deal to these kids.
Oh yeah.
And then Stan Holt hands them a check at the end of the day. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it's not chicken feed. And he's just a wonderful, generous guy. And he has the best Mexican food in Texas, bar none, the best. I love to go to that restaurant. I think the one that he maintains regular is the one in Katy. Not sure where Katy is, but I know that's close.
Yeah, that's West Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. But try it. It's Lupe Tortilla. Try it. You won't believe it. She knew what she was talking about.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh, so you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I live in Houston, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
So where do people reach out to Shirley's kids?
They can go online, shirleyskids.org. It's a 501 charity, nonprofit charity, and anything you want to know, Stan Holt has it up on the website. And we just are thrilled when people donate and acknowledge and participate in things that Shirley's Kids does. It was Dallas last year at the Dallas race where I was there in attendance, and we didn't have, because of the COVID thing, we didn't get a child on tap, but we did offer a nice donation to the DRAW organization, which is part of drag racing, and that's Drag Racing Association of Women, and it was founded when in and around the accident I had in 1984. And since 84, DRAW has been helping injured racers in all forms of motorsports. So we're pretty collected, and these people know what they're doing, and they are religious. They stick with it,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't let anything fail. I mean, that's all the wives and the girlfriends and the regulars at an event, and they're pretty impressive in their own right. So, but they're all going to get to see my little Chihuahua this next 2 weeks. Yeah, down at Gainesville. I'm looking forward to that. And
Yes, I'm seeing that you've got a number of appearances already this year through March
well,
and
they're
April.
not all. Yeah, they're not all there. We haven't put them up yet. I kind of lax getting my homework together. It's just this puppy has been a lot of work for me the last couple of weeks. I'm failing, I think, in breaking my puppy to puppy pads. So I'm working at it though.
They can be stubborn sometimes. But
Oh, I'll tell you. But I had a little dog in the 70s that a drag racer gave me, and I had her for 18 years.
oh,
A
wow.
little mix. She was mostly Chihuahua, but she was with me 18 years. I never had a leash on her. Never had a leash on her all those years. and I lost her. And then I got an Italian Greyhound. I had her for 15 years and lost her, and then 2 Chihuahuas for 14 years, and they're both gone now. And I said, that's it. I can't go through that again. I refuse to go through that again. And here I am with this gift that a fan brought to me. It's amazing. It's
They are a
amazing.
blessing. They really are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm heavy into protecting animals, both domestic and wildlife. It's part of me. I just, they have they've gotten all my donation money. It's not a lot, but that's where it goes. And I have all these people that call me for this and that, all the potential spam calls that you get. But I tell, look, I can't support your charity because they don't have 4 legs. If they have 4 legs, call me back.
And if they have a tail, then that's a bonus, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I didn't figure that, but that's a good one.
So we only have a couple of minutes left. I know you're still very proactive in racing and you're a real advocate for women. Where do people reach out to you, Shirley?
They can go, my personal email address is very simple, and I make it public so people can get to me. And it's no numbers, just letters. I1Indy, IWONINDY at AOL. And if they have anything they think they can, clue me in or give me advice, or I don't know. There's just I get some really strange requests after the Concord event, the 4 wide here in North Carolina. I got an invite to go swimming in Lake Norman to freeze the cold or whatever it was. I said, "Are you crazy? I can't manage my arthritis as it is, I said, "Well, we just thought we'd add to our roster." I said, "No, not me. You better get somebody else." But anyhow, for whatever that's worth, people can reach me, and they can also go to Shirley's Kids. But if they need to get to me, get on my email, and I'm the only one that checks that out. So if I get back to you, fine. If I don't, shame on me.
This has been a pleasure talking to you, Shirley. I
Well,
love your
show.
enthusiasm.
Well, thank you. I love talking the sport. I love to introduce the sport, drag racing, to people. If see it on TV, yes, they do a great job. I mean, I am thrilled with the way the Fox News or Fox positions their cameras. It's all very positive and very good, and great for the sport. I just I'm just amazed that it's grown like it is, and it's as popular as it is. I'm just happy to be along for the ride at my age.
And you should be. You're
Thank
a champion.
Well, you don't do too bad yourself. I wish I had a full-time job and something I could really, but I couldn't do that. I'm only racing, at races around 10 times a year, and I never have any extra time during the week. So what am I trying to pour myself out for? I don't know. Yeah, I told a writer a couple of weeks ago that if I had a chance, I'd like to be a game warden. I watched that Lone Star Law. Oh, do I love that show. I can name every single one of those game wardens. I would give anything to have that as my career. But if not for that, then I'd like to be a traffic cop.
I really enjoyed talking to you, Shirley.
I'm thankful for your time.
Yes.
And everybody in Houston, go support that last drag race for the Angel Brothers.
You betcha.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling me.
Yes, thank you, Shirley.
Yes, Shirley. Take care.
All right, you too. Thank you, Shirley. You've been listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. Stay tuned for more great programs coming up. Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.